All right, so we are recording right now.
Okay, got it.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We are here on the occupied land of the Ohlone Ramaytush, known to settlers at San Francisco. I'm Maria Judice, a filmmaker, artist, and curator, today here with Nadine Patterson. Today we are presenting the films of Nadine at the African American Arts and Cultural Center for Martin Luther King Day. We're screening 2 of her films. We Are Free Because of Harriet Tubman and Moving with the Dreaming. Welcome, Nadine from Philadelphia.
Thank you. It's so good to see you in person, Maria. Hi, I'm Nadine Patterson. I've been making films for over 30 years in Philadelphia and around the world. And I'm in beautiful Mount Airy, which used to be the traditional lands of the Lenape Nation in the Delaware Valley region. So it's an honor to be here with you all today.
Awesome. So I just wanted to just start off a little bit about, how you came to the practice of filmmaking. We have a collection of films that we're going to be watching, 2 films. One is experimental and the other one is documentary. And I just want to speak to that filmmaker that has that, varied background, because most times filmmakers kind of stick in their narrative, documentary, experimental genres, but you seem to have a very eclectic, and I've also watched a narrative, like an experimental narrative of yours before, so.
Yeah, so my films are similar to jazz. I pattern myself after John Coltrane and Alice Coltrane in that it's a collaborative effort and everyone knows what the theme is, but each person in the production gets to riff off on the theme and everyone has a solo. So my films tend to be hybrid films. They are a marriage between documentary, experimental, and narrative elements. And I really believe that all films are documentary films, because even if you're making a big budget action superhero film, you are documenting the mores of the time. You're documenting the style, the history, the location. You're documenting what a culture values and treasures. So really all films are documentary films, to be honest, because once they're done, they just don't sit there. They last forever, theoretically, right? They're evergreen. They can be evergreen. So I try to make work with that in mind. And I think as someone who does experiment, life isn't all one genre. Some days are comedies, some days are heavy drama, some days are tragedy, some days are just absurd and crazy, right? So why should our films be just any one tone? Musicians, they can play Baroque music, they can play hip hop, they can play Spanish classical guitar. Why can't filmmakers also have a diversity of expressions in their craft? So that's what I do. I make films, and we call them experimental, but it's basically cinema. And I don't call my films videos, because I make films. They're meant for the big screen, for the communal experience.
Yes, yes. And I just love this idea of, I always say that films are viewed from the future. So no matter when you're watching a film, you're always looking at that film from the moment in time that you're looking at, which is most likely the future of when that film was made. So we're constantly kind of having a new perspective of each time we watch the film. Every time the audience watches the film, there's a whole new perspective, because whatever is happening, right? Imagine I'm rewatching a bunch of films right now, and it's kind of like, during pandemic, this means something different.
It hits you differently, yeah.
Yeah. In saying that, I just want to start with your film, Moving the Dream, right? Here is a film that is connecting the Black Power experience from, the United States to Australia. And with that, it feels like a older film. I don't know what year you made the film, but it gives us this wonderful 4:3, and it gives us a bit of a older video aesthetic or grade that I haven't seen.
It was completed in 97. So we filmed it 94, 95, and did post-production in 96 and finished it in 97. And that film has a lot of archival material, of course, stills as well as television film from the 1970s from Australia. And it's interesting to follow the story of a homegrown artist named Carol Johnson. She grew up around the corner from my mom, Marlene Patterson. They were best friends and still are.
Wow.
And when my mom traveled to Australia in 1988, she visited Carol at her dance school. And she was so moved by the performances, the classes, the teachers, the students. And she came back and said, Nadine, I think we really should do a film about Carol Johnson. And because Carol Johnson is so community oriented, she said, I don't want the film to be just about me. I want the film to be about the community of Native peoples known as Aboriginal people. They're also the Islander people from the islands between Papua New Guinea and Australia, like Vanuatu, those Islander people around Australia. I want this to be about the community of people who made this school happen. And it was the activists who were protesting against the government and, you know, determined to get their voting rights, determined to get their rights to be counted as human beings in their census. They weren't counted before 1967 in the census. You know, they counted the goats and the cows, but they wouldn't count the Native peoples. I mean, this is how recent this happened. So these young people out there getting their heads bashed in by the police at the Capitol, and you see that in the film. And it's still happening today, right? So like they were inspired by people like Angela Davis, you know, who taught in the Bay Area. You know, they were inspired by people like Malcolm X, and they called themselves Black. So when we went over there, I went over there for 2 weeks on my own. I was the spearhead of the production. And everywhere I went, they were like, you're a Black fella, you're a Black fella, you're like us, you're Black. I'm like, yes, I'm Black and you're Black too, yes. And I had to rethink, reimagine my idea of what Black is. Black isn't always African.
Right.
Black can be South Asian, Black can be Australian, Black can be Pacific Islander, right? But Black is political, Black can be Brazilian.
Right.
So it's a political stance for people who believe in freedom and justice and equality, right? They believe in a better future for everybody, the Black perspective. And that, for me, how they respected us as African Americans was so moving. How they respected Carol, the reverence, when we were there with the crew, and just to see how they treated her and the other African Americans who were there in the school. You know, there are people from Detroit, people from Philadelphia, as well as Carol, and people from California who were there at the school. Then you had teachers from the Philippines and from Haiti and from South Africa. It was such a mind-blowing international experience of Black culture, right? I was like, this story has to be told. And you know, we started moving and to get it done, you know, so to speak. But it's my mom's idea. It was her connecting with her friend, visiting Australia. My mom's a world traveler, by the way. She goes everywhere. And she said, this story needs to be told, Nadine. It needs to be told.
And there's also such a healing element to the story. And I think that can also move us to the next film that we will be seeing, which is We Are Free Because of Harriet. But I noticed, you know, the connection to both of them is like, even if it's not like said in the film or on the nose, there is this vibration that moves through both of these films that's about healing and wholeness that we come to. And We Are Free has the amazing Sonia Sanchez in it. So please tell us about how you came to make this film.
Well, that film, it started with us teaching a class together at a place called Scribe Video Center in Philadelphia. It was a 6-week course that Hae-Jung Park recommended. She said, hey, Nadine, do you want to teach a film class with Sonia Sanchez? I was like, sure. and Sonia said, it's okay, it's going to be about haiku. We're going to I'm going to teach the students how to write haiku, and then you're going to teach them how to make this haiku into little films. I was like, sure, okay. And I'm like, how are you going to do this? But what it became was a practice where every week students would come in with their haiku that they made into films, and they would shoot them on their cell phone, on their DSLR cameras, on their, whatever kind of equipment they had. And the practice was to use what you have to visualize your haiku. So if it was just you and your cell phone, you can have a haiku. It was you and your kids, and you had a haiku, whatever you had available to you. And in that spirit, after 6 weeks, and Sonia was so inspired by the students and their work. And by students, I mean grown people.
Love it.
Ages of like 25 and 65, let's say. It was just beautiful, men, women, all ages and backgrounds. But she said, I want to do a haiku film, Nadine. Let's do a haiku film. I'm like, okay. It took her 2 years to finally get me off my duff to do it. But we started filming in 2018. The class was in 2016. And she said, here is the haiku. It's about Harriet Tubman. And it was, these 26 haiku and Tonka verses. And at that same time, my mom was given a ticket to go on a bus tour of the Eastern Shore of Maryland on the Harriet Tubman Underground Trail. This just happened by coincidence, the universe, wow. Right? And she went to the museum, the Harriet Tubman Museum in Cambridge, Maryland, and in Cambridge County. And on the wall, there are these big panels, and it listed the names of all of the people that Harriet Tubman led to freedom. Some of them, the names were unknown, so they're just listed as unidentified baby, unidentified adult, unidentified. But a lot of the people were Harriet Tubman's extended family and the people that she lived and worked with when she was an enslaved person. And when my mom told me about this list of names, I was like, I have to go to this museum. I want to see this display. And that's when we decided to put the names into the film. So this is the first time, Sonia Sanchez told me, this is the first time she's collaborated writing anything with anybody, because half the text are basically the names of the people, and the other half is our haiku poetry. All right, and so the film and the oral space, when you listen to the soundtrack here, you hear her in the background, these voices, the names of the people that Harriet Tubman actually led to freedom, and those that we don't know. And Sonia says, unidentified, over and over again, and just builds to this crescendo of the unknown, of these people who lived and loved and worked and played and dared to make this journey. Imagine walking 114 miles from Eastern Shore, or 120 miles or 140 miles from Eastern Shore to Philadelphia. That's a long walk.
That's a long, yes.
And walking it in December, in March, in the cold, barefoot. Can you imagine? And they didn't travel during the day. When you're going back, you travel at night. You hide in the day. The stars guide you at night. So these people also had to know astronomy. They had to know botany. They had to know what herbs could I eat. And Harriet had all this information from her mom and from her grandmother. So we don't acknowledge enough the information, the knowledge that she learned from her ancestors, from her grandmother about the stars. So the grandmom was from Africa. Okay, so she knew astronomy. She understood, okay, the moss grows on the north side of the tree. I mean, it's like she knew these things, right? And so in Philadelphia, we talked with an herbalist who told us what to look for in the woods. And that's why you have images of the ground, the floor of the forest, and the tree and the bark and the moss, because these are the things that Harriet had to pay attention to, right?
Mhm.
They're the things that she had to be aware of. And Sonia, I thank her for really bringing the piece to us, because before we started, we didn't understand how significant my grandfather's land was. It's actually
Mm.
on the Underground Railroad
Wow.
Trail, Route 16.
Wow.
But what I didn't understand until I started looking at the maps, the aerial maps of the areas, that the creek that runs behind my grandfather's property runs straight into the Choptank River, which was a known thoroughfare for the Underground Railroad. So she would have gone on Route 16, Harmony Road, hidden underneath the road. There's a place where you can go underneath the road and the creek goes underneath Route 16, literally. She could hide under there and then at night travel along the creek right to the Choptank River. So in my imagination, it's possible that she stepped on the land that
Right.
of my ancestors, that
Right.
she saw the sunset that you see in the film, that she
Yeah.
passed by those trees, that it's like, this is the land that she had to walk through to get to freedom. And my grandfather, he's from that area and he migrated to Philadelphia. Now, when he came, he had a car. He came and he brought his younger brother and a cousin with him. And as a young man in Philadelphia, he had to shepherd 2 teenagers and he had to take care of them. So the act of caring for and liberation is very much a part of what my ancestors did. And that vibration is on the land. And I'm glad to hear that healing vibration comes through. Both pieces deal with the land, right? So one thing that I learned from the Aboriginal people is that they dance the land. They dance the land. The dance connects them to land. That's their culture. For us as African-American people, music and poetry and film connects us to our land, because this America is our land. And I feel as African-Americans, even though we're not, all of us are, some of us are native to this place, some of us are, but many of us are not, quote unquote, native, but the land has embraced us, right? So the land has adopted us. Remember, the land hid those enslaved people, guided those enslaved people, protected them, comforted them, right?
Fed them.
Fed them, right? Healed them. So the land embraced us. So this land is our land, literally, it really is. And the trees have witnessed, they've seen it all. They've witnessed everything. The memory is in the land, it's in the water. So they know the blood that's been shed too. They know the horror as well. The land knows, but it remembers. And so as a filmmaker with my team, Stephanie Melson and my mom, we try to listen to the land, listen to the woods, listen to what's there, and document and reveal. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I hope everyone will join us for MLK weekend to watch Nadine's films. They'll be up for a couple of weeks, so you'll have plenty of time if you aren't making the premiere of the films. But we'll keep you updated with that info. But Nadine, can you just give us an idea on how we can follow you and what your next project is, and any way we can just connect to you?
Well, I am based in Philly, 215, and my handle is right, and my handle is Hip Cinema. At Hip Cinema is my Twitter handle. That's the best place to reach me. As Maria knows, I'm always on the Twitter, and I'm also part of a women's group called Sisters in Film and Television, sifmedia215.org. It's a really important organization of socially conscious filmmakers in the Mid-Atlantic region. And my current project another project with my mother, Marlene Patterson, and with a producer out of Pittsburgh named Martha Conley. We're doing a docudrama series on the great Black inventor, designer, engineer, Lewis Latimer.
Ooh, okay.
It's going to be a 6-part series for PBS. It's called
Wow.
Unknown Tales of Lewis and Mary Latimer. So we're in pre-production, script writing phase, and scouting location phase. So it's going to be a doozy. I'm looking forward to it. And yes, we do need your support. Yes, but we've gotten a couple grants already, which has covered our development costs. And that's been, it's the first time I've ever had money for development.
Yeah, girl.
Substantial money, which is nice. I need a lot more, but it's good. It's a good thing.
Well, we'll make sure everybody follows you, and we'll make sure that we'll put more of this information on the website so people can know where to donate to you and your next project when that becomes available. But we are very much looking forward to screening your work this weekend. And don't worry, Nadine has so many other films too. So we're hoping to do more work in the future of bringing more of your work to the Bay Area. So, Black folks over here can really connect to what a wonderful filmmaker you are. So thank you very much. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Shout out to my cousin Kitty. I'm going to tell her about this too. And she's been a member of, she's been on the West Coast for many years now. And she's a big supporter of the arts. And shout out to her, Kitty.
What's up, Kitty?
Kitty.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nadine. We'll see you soon.
Take care. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to stop the video.